Hey, Jenny, what's cooking?
Not much. What's cooking with you, Jonathan?
Well, you know, it's springtime. It's that few hours that we have here in Kentucky in between the cold and the wet and the hotter than the pit of Hades.
But it's so beautiful. Springtime in Kentucky is magical.
It is. Those few hours are fantastic. Those everything is green, everything is beautiful, and that's why tonight we're coming to you on What's Cooking Now, where food is love and love is delicious. We're coming to you from the grounds of the beautiful Hindman Settlement School. I'm Jonathan Piercy.
And I'm Jenny Williams.
And tonight we're talking about some fresh takes on spring produce. So what do you think when you think spring cooking?
You know, I think peas, I think asparagus, I think greens, and I think it's starting to stay light longer, and I want to get outside, and I don't want to spend a lot of time doing a lot of really fussy things in the kitchen. And when spring produce starts rolling in and right on through summer, I really tend to want to do as little as possible to it. You know, I just want to adorn it and embellish it rather than you know, do something.
I think that's fair. I think, and tonight we've got a whole lot of dishes coming your way, probably more than we usually do. And we'll start with getting a few things together at the stove. So what have you got? What are you starting with?
Well,
then?
you said everything's green in the spring, but not everything is green. So here at the Hindman Settlement School, they have an amazing gardening program, and they grow beautiful, beautiful vegetables. And one of the things they're growing this year are these gorgeous yellow peas. Corey, what kind of peas are these? What are they called?
Honey snap.
Honey snap peas. And I really don't think that there's no way this is doing this justice. And the flowers, which we don't have on the peas anymore, are purple. And it's just, they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
They're so beautiful.
I wouldn't do a thing to these.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to do much. I'll tell you what I am going to do, though. I'm going to blister these over fairly high heat. And this is something that seems pretty easy, right? But I never thought about doing it before until about 5 or 6 years ago. I was over at Whitesburg with our friends at the Letcher County Farmers Market, and the amazing Willie Cornett served out of his garden blistered peas, and they were just peas, and all he did was just really simply toss them onto a smoking hot cast iron skillet. And I think most recipes start, get your skillet smoking hot. If you're not setting off the fire alarm, are you really even cooking?
Yeah.
With just a little oil until they just sort of blister. So I'm gonna, our beautiful Tamara has the skillet heating up, and I'm gonna let that heat a little bit, and then I'm just gonna blister these. And what I'm gonna do with these, I have some gorgeous kale, also from the Hindman Settlement School Gardens, that I've done into sort of a chiffonade. So I pulled the big ribs out.
We'll be talking more about the chiffonade a little later.
Ooh. I pulled the big ribs out, and I just you know, sort of cut it. And I haven't done anything to this. I know that when some people do kale, they like to salt it and rub it and do things to soften it, but I really don't. I want it to retain some bite, because what I'm going to do with this kale is I'm going to put these blistered peas on it, and I'm also going to put some turmeric fried eggs on it, and then I'm going to dress it with a tamarind dressing.
Wow.
So for me, spring and summer and fall and winter are all about salads. We all know salads are like my favorite thing. They're my jam. I love them. I love all different kinds of salads. I never met a salad I didn't like. If I'm presented with an unfamiliar food, I'm going to figure out a way to turn it into a salad. And so I tend to make a lot of different kinds of salad dressings, and to really play with dressings and relishes and little sauces, little pestos that I can sort of keep in my refrigerator and pull out to dress really beautiful fresh vegetables and sometimes meats and all kinds of stuff. So before the show, I was looking in my refrigerator, and I'll post a picture of this later, but I was a little alarmed that I pulled out about 9 different little jars of salad dressing.
I'm not even surprised.
Yeah, and I probably need to start working my way through those, because what I tend to do, like I do with a lot of leftovers, is I'll make it and I'll think, oh, this is really good, I'll have this later. Then another salad, I'm like, ooh, I want to make a dressing out of this. I've come across some different vinegars lately. Friend of the show and original co-host Trisha Watts sent me a beautiful vinegar from Northern Kentucky from Madhouse Vinegars that I'm really excited about using. Didn't bring it tonight, so I keep making these dressings. But one other thing I'll say while I'm waiting for my pan to get real hot is another thing that I like to do, and I was showing Jonathan a picture of this, is I like to take things like chili crisp or hot sauce or mustards, and when the jar is almost empty, I'll stick it back in my fridge where sometimes it just sits there. But if I can remember,
then you use
often
that.
I'll pull that jar out and I'll use that to mix up my dressing, and then you can get that residual flavor off of the mustard or the chili crisp or whatever it was that was in the jar. So
cool.
I guess I just want to encourage everybody to really play around with dressings. Dressings are for sure. We say all the time that if you can eat, you can cook. If you know what tastes good to you and you're willing to screw stuff up and throw it out, then you can cook, right? So salad dressings are for sure true about that. There's a sort of a rule of thumb that you want to do 3 to 1, right? 3 parts oil to 1 part vinegar. But sometimes you might like it a little more tart or a little less oily. And so I encourage you just to play with dressings, make dressings, try putting different things in them, and see what tastes good to you. So I'm going to take these gorgeous peas and I'm going to blister them. Just going to pour a little bit of oil into the pan. Hopefully. Maybe not from this.
There's some olive oil right behind you, or if you've got some other kind of oil
There's
over there, it
actually
might be better.
Here's yours.
Yep.
Olive oil is what I want, really. And I really do want this to be pretty hot because I don't really want to cook the peas. I really want them to retain their, and we're probably going to set off a smoke alarm, but that's how we're going to know it's good. Will you, Tam, grab me those tongs I just grabbed? We really want them to get a little char, but to retain their snap. Thank you. So I'm just going to, they're going pretty quick there.
We love it when sparks fly around
Them.
there.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, you're already seeing some a little bit of color on
a little bit of color on them. I'm just going to crank that up as high as it'll go.
And heating them up like this will just sort of wake a lot of flavors up in there. Is the way I think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
And soften them a little,
Man
just
down.
a little bit.
And that's about all I want. So I'm just going to turn this off, and I'm going to take these over here. And I had a bowl. I don't know what I did with it. But I'll just put them on this. This is fine. I'm just going to spread them out on that so that they can cool a little bit. And then I'll get on to making the rest of my salad.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about a nice one-pot pasta, because I think, you know, this is a very simple meal that you can make, very simple dish that I think would make a very easy one-pot supper. And I'll tell you where this came from is from this. It's adapted from a recipe in this book, which is by Nadia Hussein, who you may recognize from the 6th season of the Great British Baking Show, or Great British Bake Off if you happen to be in the across the pond. But this is a terrific book with lots of very quick, very interesting recipes. I think it's because they come from sort of an English place, but I think they just come from everywhere. It's a beautiful book. But this is for a one-pot tortellini that I'm going to make, and there's no real sauce here. We're kind of making the sauce and pasta all at once. So we'll go over here to the pot, where I'm going to start with some water, obviously, and it's less water than you think. So we're not going to have just, it's not going to be just a big ton of water like you might do for a lot of pastas, because we don't really need it here. And is this on? Let's see. So we'll go ahead and turn this on. And now I'm going to add a few things to what I'm going to do here. Instead of making a sauce, I'm going to flavor my pasta water. I'm going to make, and that's something we don't think about doing very much. I mean, most of the time we'll salt it to flavor it, but we don't do a whole lot of flavoring of pasta water. But I'm going to start with some vegetable base, some kind of vegetable stock base. You could use the bouillon cubes. This is the Better Than Bouillon cubes. I'm just going to throw quite a bit in there to get that going. I'm also going to do a little bit of turmeric, and this is, again, it's a fairly distinctive flavor and a very distinctive color. You've probably seen it on such places as my counter.
I was just going to make the same joke, or my shirt.
It just doesn't ever come off.
It really adds beautiful color, and it
does.
adds a lot of flavor.
It's a distinct flavor that you can't really describe.
And when I first encountered fresh turmeric, I bought some to use, but really the dried turmeric has a lot more flavor.
I'm going to add some chili flake to wake this up a little bit.
So you've only got about this much.
So I've got very little pasta water. I've got very little water in here because this is all, and that's because I want these flavors to concentrate. Now the recipe in Nadia's book calls for 4 garlic cloves, so I'm using 2 heads. because that's just how we work, how we do it around here. But really, remember
have
what
too much garlic.
I'm trying to do is flavor this water. Really, flavor that that pasta water. So I've got that in there, and I think that's what I'm going to start with.
That's amazing.
I think that's everything to get going. And now the next thing I'm going to do, I'll get back over here, and we're going to talk asparagus. So asparagus is one of those great springtime things, and you know, I don't ever find much locally. I don't know if anybody's
Listen,
really grown it locally.
when people have it, it gets snapped up fast.
Yeah, I'm sure it gets snapped up fast, and I think part of it is that, you know, asparagus season has kind of come and gone by the time most of the farmers markets get going. But just a thing
If
about
you're out there and you grow asparagus,
let us know.
call us.
Yeah, but the thing to think about when you think about seasonality, when you think, you know, we talk about seasonal cooking all the time on this show, and I think that, of course, what we mean is, you know, go to your local farmers market, you know, befriend your farmers, involve CSAs. But also when you're in the grocery store, it's worth thinking seasonally, because things like asparagus, I mean, asparagus is very much in season in the springtime. So, you know, even when you look at it, you might find that in the fall you can find asparagus, but it's from Peru or it's from, you know, somewhere else in the world. And if you look in the spring, it might be from much closer by, and it's probably going to be better, and it's probably going to be cheaper. We'll talk after a while about strawberries, and that's and about cheap strawberry time, which comes up. Which is my favorite time of the year. But just always think about you know, when things are in season, even if you're just shopping in your Mega Mart. Now, when you're prepping asparagus, the neat thing about asparagus is it finds its own place to break. You just sort of bend it, and it'll usually find the place to break off, because the bottom of the stem. Now, if you want to, you can shave that and usually get that down to something that's a little more edible, because it's the outside that's really woody. But you can usually just kind of break it and.
Do you ever save the bottoms and like make soup or do something with them?
Do I? No.
No, yeah. I know you can.
Yeah, you definitely can. I don't cook a whole
don't
lot.
really
Tam is not a big fan of it, so I don't cook a lot of it. But I.
Can we talk a little bit about? Okay, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk a little bit about asparagus and pea?
Well,
Because you're a doctor, and I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
So we've long thought, of course, that asparagus makes some people's urine smell a very distinctive way, and some people's not, and that this is a genetic trait, and that your urine will smell that way if you have this trait. This was popularized, of course, in the movie Election with
Matthew Broderick
and Reese Witherspoon. But I feel like I've heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, and sure, I could look it up. I mean, I could Google it. I have a computer that fits in the palm of my hand. But this is why I have friends like you, so I can just ask. Is it true that the genetic difference is whether or not you can smell it? That everybody's pee smells like that? But
I don't
only
know.
some people can smell that?
That's a good question. I honestly don't know. That one I have to look up. I know that it's due to an amino acid called asparagine, oddly enough. So.
Well, if that's
what's
true,
causing
then
the
it
smell.
should be the pee, not your
It's
ability
probably,
to smell it,
I think
right?
it gets into everybody's pee. I'm just not sure. You know, why doesn't it smell like that right now is one question.
I'm glad that it doesn't.
But you know, it's an interesting. It is an idea. I mean, I'll just say, you know, possibly TMI, that it definitely does for me.
It
I
does for
definitely
me
get
as
the,
well. And it does
get that
for Lily.
effect.
So.
But I've cut this into some bite-sized pieces, and I'm just going to go dump that into my pasta water that I've got getting started over there.
Now, Jonathan
I'm gonna give
pointed
this-
out that in his recipe, the recipe actually called for
Yeah,
canned
Nadia's
asparagus.
recipe calls for canned or jarred asparagus, and which is of course going to be softer.
But I really like my asparagus to have a little bite. I barely like to cook it.
So I think you know, this is very much because this calls for both jarred asparagus and frozen peas. So this would be an easy, really anytime, you know, easy dish. So let's go over here, dump these into my water, which is starting to simmer. And I'm going to give those about a 5-minute head start on the rest of the ingredients that I'm dumping in here. But that'll soften that up and get it all nice and pretty.
That looks pretty already.
So we've already started. So Jenny, what have you got?
So Jonathan, I'm going to make a dressing, and I'm not sure if this is pimping for a news media organization or not, but I subscribe to the New York Times because I believe that we should support journalism if we can afford to do so. I will confess that almost the only thing I ever look at, besides the Wordle, which is free for everybody, is the cooking section, right? So I love to read the recipes. And a while back, a recipe came across, and it was for turmeric fried eggs on cooked greens. And then it had a tamarind dressing. So I love the flavor of tamarind. It's very tart. You can buy that Jumex, those sort of nectar sodas that you can get at Food City. There's a tamarind one of those that's real concentrated. I've used it to glaze hams before. And so I had actually had Kirsten Webb, our farmer's market manager, while she was in Lexington, and bought me some tamarind because I wanted it for Easter to glaze a ham with. And I saw this recipe, and so I made this dressing. And I made this dish a couple of times with the eggs, and it was just fabulous. And I've just been playing with it and riffing on it because do you do that too? Like you catch something that's kind of new and then you
and
just
just
play with it,
kind of do everything with it. Yeah.
So I'm really kind of riffing on that recipe, which I'll post on our What's Cooking Now Facebook page. I'll post that New York Times original recipe because it was super good as it was. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the dressing. I'm going to use it across this raw kale with these blistered, which taste one of these now that we've blistered them. They're so good. It really, like you said,
wakes it up. Yeah.
It's so good.
Get nutty, a little bit nutty.
It's so good. And I'm going to, so I'm going to make this dressing. I'm going to do the peas on here. I am going to fry some of the eggs, and then I'm going to make this dressing. So you can get tamarind in several different iterations. This is a paste, so it's kind of wet, right? And I'm going to take about a spoonful of it, and I'm going to put it here in this little Ninja blender. You could use an immersion blender for this. You could probably do it by hand, but there's no need. And I would, if I were at home, and I probably should now, I've been eating this on a lot of stuff. It's really good on vegetables. It's really good on meat. It's just really good. And then I'm going to juice a lime, and I'm going to include some lime zest. Almost any time that I have to juice citrus into a recipe, I include some of the zest because there's so much flavor in it. Can I go ahead and take yours in? That's awesome.
Take a little mine.
Thanks. And then I'm going to add to that, the recipe called for, I think, sugar or something, but I almost always, in a dressing, I love to use sorghum. I like to use it because it's local. I like to use it because it's different, and I like to use it because it's got its own little kind of umami.
It is its own, yeah, it's very, very
And I think with most
distinctive
dressings, and especially something that's this sour, you want a little sweetness to balance it.
Yeah.
I'm really not measuring this. I love sorghum. And this is some Allen County sorghum. And I'm going to put a little bit of fish sauce, one of my favorite condiments. I love fish sauce. Another thing I like to do with it when tomatoes start to get ripe, I like to just chop tomatoes and just sprinkle a little bit of this on it and let it sit for a while. Maybe throw some chopped cilantro or some chopped parsley on it, maybe not, and then eat that. It releases, it's so salty, it makes the tomatoes really release the juice. And then just to sort of pile that on rice, with maybe some other greens is one of my favorite things to do. So I'm going to put a little bit of fish sauce in there.
And this was a secret recipe for vinaigrettes that, actually the first place I heard it was from a friend of the show, Lynn Rosetto Casper, who was the first one who turned me on to
fish sauce?
To fish sauce in vinaigrette.
The first person that ever turned me on to fish sauce was, I have some really good friends who are Filipino, and they used it all the time, and I had never heard of it. And I went crazy over it. One of the things I love about cilantro, and this is from the Happy Hens, from Lindsay and Andy, both of whose names I remember beautifully tonight, and they grew this. And one of the things I like about cilantro is the stems are really soft enough.
They are.
I can just throw the stems right in there with it. And then I'm going to add some chili crisp, which is the other thing I've been completely obsessed with for about 6 months now. Maybe this is more than an obsession. And I'm going to put a little bit of garlic in too. I'm just going to, usually I don't do this with garlic, but I'm going to tonight. I usually just either chop it or sort of throw it in there, especially if it's in something like this where it's going to get word up anyway. But on to chili crisp. What's your favorite kind of chili crisp, Jonathan?
You know, I've actually really liked the one that you were posting, the Sin Soy.
The Sin Soy? I used all mine. I thought I had another jar, and I don't. I'm going to have to order some more.
Yeah, that was it's a product made in Cincinnati. And just the traditional grandma sauce, I think, is very good.
Okay, so I looked this up because mine is actually not chili crisp. It's actually fried chili in oil. So I looked up the difference. And there is a difference, and I can't remember what it is. Just, I think the chili
crisp includes other things.
I think the chili crisp has some peanuts and some other stuff.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
But in any event, they're all pretty tasty.
They're all really tasty. I'm going to use, because this is going to get word up, I'm going to use, this is a Serrano chili crisp that I picked up, I can't remember where, somewhere in Lexington. And these chilies are, this one's a little bit different to use because the chilies are whole. See?
Yeah. Yeah, they're still fried and still crispy.
They're
but
fried
they're
and crispy,
whole.
but they're whole, which
Yeah.
means you almost have to use it in. Whereas with the other chili crisps, I love to
just drizzle that, but those you can actually use in a
And I want this
sauce
to
or
be
something.
pretty spicy, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna pour a little bit of
Some
the
of that
oil
oil.
in. And then I'm just gonna whir this up. I hope.
Simmer.
What am I doing wrong?
That works.
Crap, it wasn't holding my mouth right.
There we go.
So I think this is gonna need a little bit more,
A little bit more something.
maybe a little
Something
more.
liquidy, some oil or some more.
I think maybe a little, maybe one more lime juice. And maybe a little oil. And when you're making dressings and things like this, I think you gotta ask yourself, do I wanna spoon this over, you know, or do I wanna pour it? Like, what do you want the dressing to be? If you
Exactly.
can kinda get the flavor profiles down the way you want them, then you're really, you can do just about anything you want. You can thin it with water, you know?
So yeah, I think that right now it's very chunky, so just adding a little more. There you go.
Let's just push some of these solids down. And taste as we go. That's really good. I think it needs some salt. Another thing I wanted to talk just a little bit about tonight is Maldon sea salt flakes, because I love salt. And I love this salt. I think it's, I love the way it's got these, I don't know if we can get a close-up of this, but it's got like little
Big, very distinctive crystals.
pyramid-shaped crystals.
Yeah.
There you go.
Which works completely differently than
Yeah.
it just.
My
yeah, it
kids
just
make
hits the
fun
tongue
of me
differently.
because I walk by my salt cellar and eat little pinches of it, which I definitely should not do. But it's so good.
And there's a smoked version of Maldon sea salt that is one
Yep.
of my favorite things in the kitchen.
I think this needs a little more umami, so I'm just gonna toss in a little bit more fish sauce. And it's spicy, but not too spicy. And I think I am going to thin this just with a little water because I do want to use it like as a dressing. I do want to be able to pour it across. So I'll do that real quick. And what are you?
Well, while she
moving
does
on
that,
with?
we'll go to a commercial. This is What's Cooking Now. Coming to you from the Hindman Settlement School. We're talking about spring produce. When we come back, we'll finish this pasta. We'll do a little cocktail and get some more salads going on. So come right back.
Hazard Coffee Company is the sole specialty coffee shop in Perry County. Focusing on high-tech, high-quality coffee and espresso, Hazard Coffee Company seeks to cultivate a community environment around coffee. They have a variety of options including your favorites such as mochas and cold brews, as well as specialties such as the Taxi Alley. Always brewed to precise perfection. Stop by their shop in downtown Hazard located at 470 Main Street in Taxi Alley, or order online for pickup and delivery at hazardcoffeecompany.com. The Red Spotted Newt is a locally owned independent bookstore located in downtown Hazard, Kentucky, specializing in Appalachian literature from authors such as Silas House, Gurney Norman, and Annette Clapsaddle, among many others. The Newt also offers a full collection of art and gifts, including Little Bubby Child prints and these sweet cards inspired by The Office. Check out their store located at 221 Memorial Drive in Hazard, or shop online through bookshop.org. And be sure to follow them on Facebook and Instagram at the handle Red Spotted Newt.
And we are back on What's Cooking Now, coming to you from the Hindman Settlement School. Jenny's been thinning out her dressing a little bit. I'm going to go over here and finish up my pasta. So, so again, I've got just a bare simmer going on in the pot with this. And if you smell it, you can definitely smell all the flavor is in that pasta water. So I'm going to add a few more things. I'm going to add, these are just, again, these are spring peas that I'm going to throw in here. And again, I'm not going to leave those in very long because they don't need to be. Because there's no good reason to keep them in. But I'm just going to dump them in. And then the last thing I'm going to put in is my pasta. And the pasta that I'm using here is a tortellini. This is a pre-done tortellini. This is one of my favorite kitchen shortcuts. This is a wonderful little shortcut in the kitchen because it's so, it's very tasty. These are fresh. They cook in 5 minutes. You could easily freeze this and then bring it straight out of the freezer and just cook it straight from frozen. And it would be delicious. So I've got one whole package here, and I'm just putting that whole package down in there. And then we're just going to stir that up a little, and then let that go for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, not long at all. Just sort of long enough to cook everything through. And so we've got just a dead simple. We've got that asparagus. We've got those peas. I don't have a spoon handy over here. Wait, hang on. I'll stir it so you can see everything together. You've got that asparagus that's in there. You've got those peas. So it's very green, and the pasta water is a little bit, as you know, colored from that turmeric and everything that's in there. It's flavored from that garlic. That is just going to be gorgeous. And hey, Jenny.
Yep.
Are you thirsty?
You know, I feel like it's about cocktail time.
It is about cocktail time.
What do you got going on?
Well, today I've got a cocktail called it's called the Bijou, and I want to give a couple of shout outs here. One is the place where I sort of learned to love this cocktail. It's one of my favorite cocktail bars in the world, which is Japs since 1899. That's in Cincinnati and over the Rhine. Home of the world famous Molly Wellman. So
is
Molly,
that
if you're
that Art Deco place that you and Tam took me.
that's not that one. That one's also awesome. But Japs is a wonderful place with the wonderful Molly Wellman, sort of her home base, and also to my pal Paul Clark from who did a great article on this cocktail in the in Serious Eats. And what he pointed out there is that there are 2 versions of this cocktail because it's 3 simple ingredients, and the classic version has sort of equal amounts of these 3 ingredients, while the more modern version has a different proportion. So we're gonna try both ways.
I love chartreuse. I think it's one of the most beautiful liqueurs.
We're starting with some gin, and this is such a simple cocktail that I think the ingredients shine. This is the Botanist. This is a Scottish gin. It's from Islay, which is the same.
That smells really good. I love gin, and I feel, is this true? Like, I feel like there are 3 sort of classifications of gin. There's the very sort of juniper-y gin, there's the more floral gin, and then there's the sort of herbaceous gin. Do you think that's...
I think that's fair.
Is that fair? I'm not sure what that one smells like.
This one is Scottish, and it's made up in the same sort of regions where they make all the good Scotch. They use a lot of sea botanicals in theirs,
like coriander
and just a lot of sea plants and that sort of thing. So so there's a lot.
I want to taste that.
So yeah, just have a sip of that straight up if you want.
Let me get a little.
The second thing is vermouth, sweet vermouth. That's the red kind. What I always like to say whenever we use vermouth is remember vermouth is a wine.
Jonathan Piercy taught me, as he taught me so many things.
Vermouth is
Date
wine.
your vermouth and put it in.
Date your vermouth and put it. In fact, I had a bottle that I was going to bring here tonight, and I realized it was too old. So
how long should you keep vermouth?
About 6 months is really about.
I wish they made smaller bottles then, because I don't.
And it lives in the fridge. It always lives in the refrigerator.
I have mine in the fridge, but.
Now I'm making 2 of these again because the modern version of this has an ounce and a half of gin.
I bet this makes a dandy martini.
It does. It really does. That is one of my favorites. We were in Scotland and got to try a lot of different gins. It's really a big thing in really all throughout the UK.
I really like it.
Now the third thing is chartreuse. This is a French liqueur. It's really old. It goes all the way back to like 1605. The recipe in the Carpathian monks in the Chartreuse monastery in the Chartreuse Mountains in France.
So which came first, the name chartreuse or the use of the word to describe the color?
Probably the name. I don't know. I know it comes from the Chartreuse Mountains. Is where so I don't know if that's just the.
Okay, so you guys out there watching, you have 2 sets of homework. One is to find out what's the deal with asparagus and pea and the way it smells, and the other, which came first, chartreuse to describe the color green, or chartreuse as a region?
And of course, chartreuse is, and it's a liqueur. It's very herbal. There are two kinds. There's green and yellow. The yellow is sweeter. You don't see it used much in cocktails.
What do you use it for?
Mostly just to sip. That's what most people would do with it.
Like as an
So-
aperitif? So this one is the fancy one?
This one is the modern one, which is
This one is the modern one.
no. This is the modern one.
Okay.
And this is the classic one, the one that was originally published in a cocktail book in 1900. So this is a very old cocktail, even as published.
I love just the history of cocktails.
Yeah,
you know,
and
just the
well, and
idea.
it's also mixed, and it's also hard to pin down because most of the people who were writing down the history were drunk. But this is a simple cocktail, and I know that I have a fancy Uri mixing glass, and here I have a measuring cup that I found in the back because it doesn't really matter. The Uri mixing glass just makes it look cooler. But this is a stirred cocktail. This is not one you want to
that's
shake.
one of the things about cocktails, though, and one of the things that I've really been enjoying is how many good mocktails there are, and how many bars and restaurants I've been going to that are serious about their mocktails, and they're serious about, and I think we need a new word for that now, because I'm not sure I like the word mocktail, but it's, part of it is the ritual and the beauty of it, and just doing something really lovely, and sort of stopping your day, and slowing down, and doing something that's just purely beautiful.
Yeah.
And maybe a little unnecessary in a lot of ways.
So remember, when you stir, you want to stir around the outside. You really want to move all the ice as a unit. You don't want a lot of noise. You don't want, you just want to move all the ice together. And then I'm going to use my Hawthorne strainer. And so this is the modern version of this cocktail. Very beautiful. I would not even garnish this with anything.
Although it can, I read, be garnished with a maraschino cherry, right?
It could be.
Is that traditional?
I don't think there is any specific traditional garnish. I think that I've seen it done with a lemon, but I think this one is pretty enough on
It
its
is
own.
pretty.
So, and the difference in the recipes here is that the classic version is equal parts of those three ingredients. The modern version has it's 1.5 ounces of rum plus a half ounce each of gin rather, and then a half ounce each of the other two liqueurs. So it's far more gin forward. And this is the classic.
Modern one.
The modern one is far more gin forward.
Okay.
This is the classic version that's got everything everything in
ready
equal
to.
parts. So let's A/B this. So, Lakaya?
That's
And-
really good.
Yeah, and there's a lot going on there. It's very
Oh, that's really
you
good.
get all those herbs. It just tastes very green.
It tastes like spring. That's really nice.
All right. So that's the classic version.
Wait.
Wait. Just launch it. That's lighter. I mean, it's definitely lighter. It's I think a little more refreshing.
This one has less gin?
This one is the one with more gin.
More gin. I was going to say, because I really taste the gin a lot more.
Yeah, this one has much more gin. I think they're different cocktails, but I like them both.
I think I like the one with less. I love gin, but I think I like the one with less
One with
gin
more
better.
of the other things. And I think the Japs they serve it like this. They serve it in equal parts.
I think I like this one better.
That is delicious. All right, Jenny, what else
really
you got?
Good. Okay, so I've made my dressing and I've got it somewhere. Where'd it go? It's somewhere. But I am now going to do my turmeric eggs.
Yeah, well, you just put some butter
So
on
I'm
it.
gonna what I'm gonna do is I'm
probably
gonna
just
just
turn it
take a
off.
little bit of oil and I'm gonna take just some turmeric and shake that in it. And instead of being the yellow that we're usually associate with turmeric, once it heats in the oil, it's going to turn a really bright red, and then I'm going to fry the eggs in it. I'm going to go ahead. I spread these peas out in this on this platter because I wanted them to stop cooking pretty quickly once
go
they
ahead
were
and
blistered.
diagonal.
But I'm just going to move these for a minute to this bowl so that this will be ready to serve.
And putting an egg on something is just a.
Well, for one thing, I have a bunch of eggs because I have an egg CSA. And I have a double egg CSA because I ordered my CSA, and then one night, maybe I'd had a couple of glasses of wine, I ordered another CSA. And so the beautiful Happy Hens called, and they said, "Do you really want two?" egg CSAs? And I said, yeah, sure, I can give the eggs to people. I'll eat them. I'll do whatever. So I have a lot of eggs. So I've been eating a lot of eggs. I'm surprised to say this because because I love Jim, but I definitely like the one with a little less. So I'm going to just take, so this is the texture that I have, or the viscosity.
It's a little bit chunky, but it's thick.
A little bit chunky. I'm going to take
hang on to things.
Just, can I have your olive oil?
Yep.
I'm going to take just a little drizzle of it for now. And then I'm going to take some of Jonathan's olive oil. And I'm just going to toss this around. This kale that I've chiffonaded, I've cut it up. You could cut it any way you wanted. You could also use other greens here. You could use spinach. You could cook the kale if you wanted, as it is in the original New York Times recipe. You could use sub in spinach. You could sub in dandelion greens, which are one of the things I love about spring. I love to just go out in my yard and pick them and use those. You could use a lettuce. So you really can use anything. And that's, I think, what I love so much about spring and summer in Appalachia, really, is that you've got so much stuff and you can just kind of sub it out.
Yeah, I mean, this pasta that I'm making back here, there's no reason you couldn't put little skinny green beans in it, or spring onions even. I mean, there's no, just about anything you've got. And when different things start coming in, you could sub that in.
Okay, so I'm just going to lay this flat. I'm going to garnish it. Should I put the peas first or the egg on top?
I like the egg on top.
Okay. These peas are so good. I mean, really, sometimes it almost seems like it's a crime to do anything to vegetables that are this beautiful. Look how pretty that color is.
I like that we've not done much.
One thing I will say is that I kind of wish that I had pickled some shallot or some red onion to put on
grab
this.
a spoon or something to get the pasta out with? Yeah.
But I'm going to come over here now with my eggs, which I can't find. Oh, they're
over here on the
Oh, right. And I'm just going to heat my skillet up a little bit. And I love poached eggs. I love boiled eggs. I love any kind of eggs. And so I really like to keep them around. I really like soft-boiled eggs. And I've tried every trick that people ever tell me. I cannot peel them pretty. I've tried letting my eggs get older. I've tried a lot of things. I have not. Who was just telling me to put baking soda in the water? Angie Chan, maybe? Somebody. But I'm just going to put a little bit of oil in here. Actually, kind of a lot of oil. Because I really want the eggs to get sort of lacy on the edge, right? So I want to fry them pretty hard and fast. I'll let this heat up a little bit. And I'm going to kind of watch for that oil to shimmer so that I know that it's hot enough. And it's starting to do that. I'm going to put my turmeric in and sort of stir that around. So pretty. And you can see it's starting to darken.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Look how pretty these eggs are. Pink and blue. I love them. Look, that one broke. That one did too.
I've started cracking my eggs into little bowls just because I break so many.
I don't mind if they're broken, really. And then I'm just going to splash some of the oil on top rather than turning these.
I like that method.
I like it too. And see how they're nicely kind of bubbling up on the edges there?
So it won't take long at all.
No, it really won't. But I do want them to be a little more. Well, I think those are about.
Those are probably good by the time
Okay,
they.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to carry this skillet over. Probably a bad move. I probably should have instead carried my platter over. Look at the way those are puffed up. That's
Yep.
so pretty.
That is gorgeous. And it just turned those eggs so pretty.
I think so too.
Now, while Jenny was, now
Then
look
I'm
at that.
gonna just drizzle. And this is still pretty thick.
Mm-hmm. All right, that is gorgeous.
And you know, you could add a lot of stuff to this. You could skip the eggs and add a little chicken. You could put ham in this. You could put anything in it. But I think that's a really beautiful supper.
That is gorgeous.
But look at that.
So this is, so I pulled off my pasta here, and you can see I've left a lot of the water in there just because that's essentially our sauce. That's what a lot of our sauce is. So I'm going to add a few things now just to finish it. I've got a good knob of butter that I'm going to add, and just let that melt in. I'm also going to add a little bit of lime juice
That looks
and some lime
fabulous.
zest.
Looks really amazing.
And then I've got some mint that's just
Oh.
chopped up. If you're able to find some that wasn't used for juleps over the weekend. Going to add that on there. And then I'm just going to stir all that up. Let that butter melt. And I've used just a regular 3-cheese tortellini here. There are all kinds of tortellinis in the, they're in the grocery store back where a lot of the fancy cheeses are and that sort of thing. But this is a great thing to have on hand. These sort of
I agree
quickie pastas.
wholeheartedly with you. I love that tortellini.
So we're just going to let all that melt in for a minute, and that is a pretty dish
That
of
is
pasta.
a beautiful dish of pasta. Look at
All
that.
right.
I'm just going to pluck a piece out with my tasting spoon. Oh my God, that's so good.
Yeah, just everything, just all the little things. It's not, you just flavored that water and
You know,
that's
like
flavored
they
that pasta.
say, that, you know, there's that saying, the sum is greater than the whole of its parts. That's just, the mint really sets it off. That's so good. It's very springy. It's like springtime in a bowl.
Exactly.
That is really good.
Well, and it's about,
Amazing.
it's about that time, so we'll go to yet another commercial break, and when we come back, I've got one more quickie dish for you.
And I have also one more quickie dish. We're all about
So,
quickies, aren't
all
we?
about quickies tonight, and that's on What's Cooking Now, coming to you from the Hindman Settlement School,
Where food is love.
and love is delicious. Come on back.
Hazard Coffee Company is the sole specialty coffee shop in Perry County. Focusing on high-tech, high-quality coffee and espresso, Hazard Coffee Company seeks to cultivate a community environment around coffee. They have a variety of options, including your favorites such as mochas and cold brews, as well as specialties such as the Taxi Alley. Always brewed to precise perfection. Stop by their shop in downtown Hazard, located at 470 Main Street in Taxi Alley, or order online for pickup and delivery at hazardcoffeecompany.com. The Red Spotted Newt is a locally owned independent bookstore located in downtown Hazard, Kentucky, specializing in Appalachian literature from authors such as Silas House, Gurney Norman, and Annette Clapsaddle, among many others. The Newt also offers a full collection of art and gifts, including Little Bubby Child prints and these sweet cards inspired by The Office. Check out their store located at 221 Memorial Drive in Hazard, or shop online through bookshop.org. And be sure to follow them on Facebook and Instagram at the handle Red Spotted Newt.
All right, we're back. And welcome back. So, you know, we just got a couple of quick dishes to finish things up with you. And one of the things I always think about when it comes to spring is strawberries. You know,
Listen, Maggie from Old Home Place Farm had fresh strawberries the other night. And I forget, I mean, I like strawberries okay. My daughter eats them all year round. She eats the kind of crappy grocery store ones. But I forget how amazing a fresh, locally grown strawberry that was just growing a few hours before you ate it. Oh my God, they were so good. Of course, I only got to eat about 3 before my daughter scarfed the rest down.
that's usually
but
how it works.
you know, that's how that works.
And I've tried to even grow a few, and it's always the birds get them before I can ever do anything.
They're so amazing.
But one thing I like about them is not just, you know, there's not much better than just a strawberry with a little sugar on it. But you know, I like to try savory applications anytime I've got something sweet like this. So
and I'll tell you what too, when strawberries come in season and you have people in the band or whatever that are making you, like, guilting you into buying huge flats of them, and you're like, what the hell am I going to do with all these? One of the things, one of the many things that Jonathan Piercy taught me that's gotten hip and cool, but Jonathan knew about it and did it before it was cool, is shrub syrups. So shrub syrups are just, you basically take any kind of fruit, the juicier it is, I think probably the better it works, and you just sort of macerate it or just chop it up, and you steep it in vinegar for a while. And then you strain it, and you take the vinegar and you add sugar to it, and you're essentially making sort of a vinegar syrup. Is that a fair characterization? Yeah. And it's beautiful in salad dressings. It's beautiful just to drink in a little soda water, very refreshing. Splash it in tea, do anything with it. So I love the idea of doing kind of a savory thing with these strawberries. So tell us about this.
So I've tried up a bunch of these strawberries in advance, and I've salted them a little bit and put them in a strainer, and that's because I'd like to get a little juice out of them if I possibly can, because we're going to be putting these on bread. I've gotten a little juice out, and I'm not going to.
I love salted fruit. Like, I love to do like tahini and salt on watermelon, and I love salt. I love salt. Let's just face it.
Just in general.
That's really good on the straw. I don't know if I've ever salted strawberries.
And
I like that.
so I've just that's just gotten a little bit of their of that out. Now I'm going to add some basil, and we said we were going to talk about the chiffonade. I've kind of got this ready to go. So what do we mean by when we say chiffonade? We're talking about ribbons, cutting something in ribbons. And what I've done is I've stacked up a bunch of basil leaves. You can see I've stacked these up, and I'm just going to roll them up like a little cigar. Roll them in a nice tight little cigar. And then get my knife and kind of go across that really thinly. Go across those, and then just kind of fluff them out.
You know, the thing about a chiffonade cut is that, it's really pretty. It makes things really pretty. And I love to use it. I know there are those benighted people out there who say they don't like kale salads and stuff. And you know, they rub it and they do all that stuff. Like I said, though, so when I chiffonaded this, it really breaks down tough greens in a nice sort of eatable way, you know? So
it does.
You can just, oh, God, that's really good. I love that dressing, that tamarind.
Now, one of the things that I love with
Is that
strawberries
feta?
is white cheese of some kind,
Oh,
and
hell yeah.
and this is feta. This is just feta cheese. Now, could you use goat cheese? Oh yes. Could you use fresh mozzarella? Yes, you could.
Could you use burrata?
You could use burrata. Could you use blue cheese? I think blue cheese would be pretty fantastic.
I don't know that I've ever done blue cheese and strawberries, but I know that I want to.
But it's but you know, why on earth wouldn't you? So I've just added a whole bunch of that, and then from there I'm going to add some balsamic vinegar. And should have opened this beforehand. Didn't think about that. But again, balsamic vinegar and strawberries were just pretty much born for one another.
Definitely.
It's just a classic, one of those things that when you try it, you're like, yeah, that's kind of what strawberries and balsamic vinegar needed.
And that's kind of a classic thing. Is just
very classic.
Just balsamic sprinkled over.
Yeah.
But you are taking it to new heights, as you are wont to do with many.
And then
things.
I'm just going to add some. Is there some pepper over there? And hand me that olive oil. I'm going to add a little olive oil. And then, and that's pretty much it. Add a little pepper to that. You know, it's, there we go. That's plenty. And then I'm just going to stir that up. That's it. So, just stirring all that together to make a beautiful little strawberry salad. Now you could serve that. You know, you could serve that just with some meat or with
oh my God.
about anything you'd ever want.
This over like grilled.
Yeah,
chicken?
just something grilled. But I'm going to make this even easier. I'm going to just spoon this over little pieces of bread.
Oh, that is.
And we're not going to cook them afterwards. We're just going to.
I need
you got the platter down
I
there?
need to get with this for a while. This is really good. You guys have no idea. You know,
So-
when we take sweet things like strawberries and you just take them in a different direction, the next time you get invited to a party, instead of like going to Food City and buying some sad crudité platter that was pre-cut. Do this.
I mean,
This is
because how
amazing.
long has this taken me? No time whatsoever.
No time at all, and it's so
So
good.
I've got some of this, and then I've got a spoon somewhere, I'm sure.
Would you like me to get you a spoon?
I think I carried it away.
Yeah,
Here,
so,
I'll get you one. Hold on.
and then we're just going to spoon a little bit of that on these, and that's it. That's the, so this is going to be, and you could rub a little olive oil on these and then toast them if you wanted to,
I don't.
but as it
think
is,
that'd be overkill.
it might be.
You know what I wish though? I gotta admit, I wish that we could still get that really good sourdough bread.
Yeah,
that we
if
used to be able
only,
to
if only
get.
somebody could arrange that. So just kind of piling this on these, and you can be sloppy about it. You can just sort of throw it around there, and
Look how pretty this is.
on top of these little slices of bread.
I feel like I want to have a party just so I can serve this.
Yeah. So this is just a strawberry bruschetta.
Look at that.
So let's try a bite. I'll take this little one here. Oh my. I mean,
That is good.
the trick is just any place you might use a tomato, try a strawberry. See how it works. I mean, make a caprese salad with strawberries. Why wouldn't you?
I don't know. Why haven't I?
Why haven't you?
Oh my God. Yeah. That's so good.
All right.
I
Jenny,
love that.
what do you got?
Okay, so just super quick. Hindman's been growing these beautiful cucumbers, and I love cucumbers. And I have discovered this spring, in a white girl appropriation kind of way, smashed cucumbers, which is where you just basically cut them and you smash them with the flat of a knife, toss them with a little chili garlic oil, some sesame oil, whatever. But this is a little bit different. I've sliced these up, and this is one of my favorite dressings to make in the summer and just to sort of have in the refrigerator. It keeps pretty long. My daughter and I had this last night on a noodle bowl with soba noodles. It's good just with apples dipped into it. It's good with anything. And it's just kind of a really super basic peanut sauce. A lot of you have probably made something very similar. It really does keep for a while. So I've just dumped some peanut butter in here, a couple of tablespoons. I'm going to use, we talked about this Sensoy brand. They probably should, send us some.
At some point,
But I love their chili garlic crisp. I love their soy sauce.
I haven't tried their soy sauce yet, but it's
I hide it from Lily because I feel like she uses it. Okay, I feel about this soy sauce the way I feel about really good olive oil or vinegar. Like, don't cook with it.
yeah,
Just
make
use it to, right?
Yeah.
And so I do hide it from my daughter a lot. So I'm just going to put a splash of that in. And a little rice wine vinegar. Again, I'm going to use, instead of sugar, which is what the recipe calls for, I'm going to use sorghum because I think that flavor profile really works.
And I love this kind of peanut sauce. This is, I like to make chicken wings with, that are just tossed, baked and
Jordan is,
and tossed
darn.
in this.
I was going to lick my finger because you were focused on. Oh, God! Caught. Red-handed. Licked finger. I like this to be pretty spicy. So I put chili crisp in this.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I just put red pepper flakes. Sometimes I don't put any of that. I put a little bit of fish sauce in because I think it gives it some good umami. So do you have any more? You used all your garlic, didn't you? All your peeled garlic.
Yeah, I think I used my one.
Some garlic.
I get it.
Here, thank you. That's my little. And then really just a little bit of water to thin it. And if you've ever, you've done, I know you have. If you haven't done peanut sauces like this before, water does a crazy thing to peanut butter. Like at first it gets thicker and then it gets.
Yeah, and then it sort of mixes
Why
in.
is
and
that? Is
I
there
have
a
no
science?
idea.
I feel like you should make
Probably
something
do
up
some
and I would
science.
believe you.
Yeah,
I bet
I
there's
could.
science behind it, and you are a scientist
I
as
am.
a doctor. So I'm just going to whir this up really quickly. I've chopped up my cucumbers. A lot of people really like to peel their seed their cucumbers because the seeds can make it a little watery.
Yeah.
If I were going to keep this for a while, I would probably, but I like the seeds. I think they give a good texture. I'm just going to add a little chili crisp to this.
I'd just say one of my favorite side dishes lately is just to chop up some cucumbers and do some rice wine vinegar on them and a little sugar and and salt.
That's so classic.
And that's and just leave them sitting in the fridge for an hour, and they're delicious.
That's really classic.
Anytime I make a stir fry or anything like that, I almost always have that on the side.
Yeah, I love that as well. And that's such an Appalachian thing too.
Yeah, it's one of those things that your Appalachian grandmother and your Asian grandmother would probably agree on. One of those things that's such a good idea, it crosses continents.
And that is pretty much it. I think that's good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add a little more water because I let it get too thick. And then I have also taken, so there's a really classic sprinkle that you can put called furikake that you can put over top of almost anything that's Asian. And it can be almost anything you want. Typically it's sesame seeds, sometimes some bonito fish flakes, peanuts, chili sauce, red pepper flakes. But it's really nice to have around. And like I said last night, my daughter and I had a little peanut sauce. We made a little noodle bowl. And so this is what I have just from last night. And this is just one of the things I love that they have in Food City is they have these little packages of these little square seaweed sheets, and they're seasoned. And I could just stuff the whole thing in my mouth. They're awesome. I love salty things, and I love like potato chips. And obviously, I don't need to be eating quite as many of those as I do. And so those little seaweed sheets, they satisfy my salty crunch need. But this is just a little chopped peanut, some red pepper flakes, some of that good big salt, that sea salt, and some sesame seeds that I toasted a little bit. And I'm just going to sprinkle this over.
It's pretty. And there are all sorts of, if you go to the Asian aisle at
you can buy
a nice store, you can buy furikakes, and there's so many of them.
There are, and I'd love to buy them, but I like to make them too because I like to sort of tailor them to what I want. Like Lily doesn't like the ones that have the bonito flakes in them as much as I do, and I love those. So yeah, I think that's it. Do we have time? We've got 3 minutes.
We've got 3 minutes.
So Jonathan makes the most beautiful cocktails in the world, and it's a well-known fact that I think Jonathan Piercy and Leon Holland Jr. make the best cocktails of anyone in the world. And I don't ever even try to replicate them.
She's not wrong.
Clearly, I'm incapable of the sort of careful measuring and using a scale and using a jigger and stirring the ice the right way. But sometimes I don't have Jonathan or Leon around, and I just want something kind of quick. And like I said, Jonathan taught me the beauty of shrub syrups, and in general, the beauty of just having some different flavored syrups in your house. And although I do love a good cocktail, I also love a good special drink in the evening that doesn't have alcohol in it. And I find that keeping some different simple syrups around is a really beautiful way to make that happen. It adds a lot to salad dressings and a lot of things. So the beautiful Happy Hens, Andy and Lindsay have grown some rhubarb, which I love. And I love rhubarb in sort of savory applications. But I got some beautiful little stalks of rhubarb from them. And I made a beautiful rhubarb syrup. And I just want to show you that. So it made this beautiful, beautiful, isn't that pretty? It's just so pretty, and it's really flavorful. And
rhubarb is such a springy thing anyway.
Oh God, smell that. I mean, and I love it because it's weirdly, like
really
it's
vegetal.
sweet, but it's so vegetal. Thank you for that word. And so what I'm going to do is I am just going to pour, I've taken a little bit of vodka, just straight vodka, and I've sliced up some jalapenos in it just to give it a little zing. And I was inspired by my daughter's prom, where Jennifer Weber, who's with Community Farm Alliance and North Fork Local Foods, and I made some really specially crafted mocktails. And again, I really want to think of another word for that because they don't have to be a substitute for alcohol. They don't have to be a substitute for cocktail. They're just a special, beautiful drink that people deserve, whether they have alcohol or not. And so we made some, and one of the ones that we made had grapefruit juice that was muddled with jalapenos, and it was really spicy. Kids hated it. I loved it. So I was kind of inspired by that. Can I use your strainer? And I'm just going to start by straining. That is the sexiest little tool.
That is a julep strainer, by the way.
This is a julep strainer.
That's a julep strainer.
I love, Jonathan has the best kitchen products. And unlike Jonathan, who's going to measure carefully and make a perfect cocktail, and mine might not be that good, honestly.
Looks good to me.
I mean, it's vodka with jalapenos. What part can be wrong? And then I'm going to just top it. We didn't even taste any of our food yet, though. Can we go a little over? Just a little bit, Corey?
Do what you want.
Are the airwaves like busting for the next? And then I'm just going to top that with a little sparkling soda. I'm going to stir this with my special bar spoon. Okay, let's taste this.
So spicy. I mean,
I
it's
feel
got
like it needs some citrus a little bit, maybe.
maybe a little
This
little
is
lime.
why my cocktails don't work and Jonathan's do, because I don't think I'm through. It's all right, though.
It looks good to me.
Okay, let's taste stuff.
So I put
real
out some,
quick.
and I want everybody to look at this pasta.
God, it's
Look at the pasta
gorgeous.
water. That it's sort of thickened up because we added that big knob of butter. So now we've got
Oh my
it's
God.
formed a sauce. It's what we've done, all kind of at once. And we remember we did this in one pot, and we've used all that beautiful spring produce.
Oh my God, that's so good.
And the turmeric has given it that beautiful yellow color.
I know I should get a plate. Okay, now I'm going to try this, and I'm going to look at these eggs, how gorgeous these are. That's really, really beautiful. And I'm going to just look at that yolk. And this is what I love about eggs on salad. I love,
When that yolk gets down in there,
go ahead.
makes kind of a
Oh, it's like a sauce.
again, it makes a sauce.
I'm just going to get a little, I'm going to get a bite with all of the pieces, right? With the pea and the egg. That's pretty good.
Yes, yes.
One last thing. Wait, I have to
I'm all about it.
clear my palate.
That is fantastic.
That is really good. Okay.
Let's get a cucumber. I'm going to want heavy on the purikaki. That dressing. Oh yeah,
I love that.
that's so perfect.
I love that.
Such a simple thing and took no time.
Well, Jonathan, I think we've done it again.
I think we've done it again. Lots of deliciousness.
Not sure what it is.
Not much time.
But you know, just remember, if you're out there and you're looking at spring produce, don't be afraid to try new things with it, and don't feel like you have to do much to it, because we're in Kentucky and the produce that we have coming out needs very little intervention.
Just throw it
to
in
be
something, it'll
delicious.
probably be great.
Absolutely. Well,
Well-
we'll see you sometime next month, so check us out. Follow us on Facebook on What's Cooking Now. Be sure that you're following the Hindman Settlement School and watching all the wonderful things they're getting ready to do.
We want to thank the
and
Kentucky.
that they do.
We'll thank the Kentucky Humanities Council for their
Super
grant.
excited about the
Want to thank-
Ironwood Writers
Yes.
Camp.
Want to thank Tamara, who keeps us rolling every week.
And
Want to
sane,
thank,
maybe.
And sane, more or less
partially
sane.
sane.
And I want to thank the intrepid tech crew who somehow watches us cook all this without diving into it until we're done. And I want to thank the Hindman Settlement School for hosting us. And until next time,
Feed the ones you love and love the ones you feed.
good night all.
What's Cooking Now is a production of Hindman Settlement School, with funding provided by the Kentucky Humanities Council. Hindman Settlement School is committed to cultivating and growing the local food system and the unique culinary and agricultural traditions of Central Appalachia through our foodways programs. For more information on our work, visit us at www.hyman.org and be sure to tune in to What's Cooking Now on the first Thursday of each month to see what's cooking.